Hi, my name's Kevin McQuillan, and the following pre-recorded conversations are my attempt to make sense of the human experience through the practice of yoga. I hope you enjoy. All right, so welcome to the workshop. And to start this workshop, I want to explain my teaching approach to you so you can get a sense of why I teach what I teach and why I teach how I teach. It's, you could call it something like a master theory or a body of knowledge I've been putting together for a long time, years. And it's focused on the human experience, like what's happening in the human experience. And I'm really quite fascinated by people. I've been fascinated with my own experience and attempting to make sense of my experience, most of my life. Like why am I who I am and why do I do the things in which I do? And I've been intrigued by that for a long time. And so this has been in the making for years and years. And I've spent a lot of time with people in a whole host of different ways. Through teaching, of course, teaching yoga and these kinds of things. I've traveled a lot of places. And I've spent time with thousands and thousands of people. I also own this place, and I've owned Peace Retreat for the last 12 years. And so there's been a lot of people coming through these doors. And I'm really curious, I observe and I pay attention. It's like fascinating, why we do the things in which we do. And often the case is, there's this thought or presupposition that, I'm so different than everybody else. Nobody's like me. And that's true in some ways, but we're so similar in so many different ways. And that's what I've really uncovered during this endeavor is, wow, we are so similar. It is fascinating. And this thought or stance where I'm so different than everybody else, and what that manifests into is like this experience of loneliness, and like confusion. Just nobody would understand what it's like for me to be me and the life that I have and where I come from and these kinds of things. And what I've come to discover is we talk about our human experiences and where we come from. There's a lot of similarities and parallels, and we have more alike than not. We're so similar in so many different ways, and there's a benefit of talking about the things we don't necessarily want to talk about. And that's my methodology in some ways, talk about the things that we don't necessarily want to talk about, which is confrontational. And, I guess I could say I'm a confrontational teacher. I like confronting. I confront myself. I like putting myself in uncomfortable situations, to see it's like, okay, I have to draw on something new. I have to pull on something new. Otherwise, I don't know how this is going to go. And so it's been this practice of transforming myself as I move along. And so I have a tendency of, focusing on two sides of the equation. One of, the dark side of us, where we're kind of in the, what would you call it? Like the underworld or something, It's like we're dark and seedy and that side of us that we don't necessarily want to talk about, where there's anger and resentment and, we're troublemakers and the various different things in which we do. And then the opposite of that, where our values live and where we are doing amazing things in the world, and we have these beautiful qualities and, we are out there creating connections and intimacy with people. And so I look at these two sides of the equation. One I call the cycle of dis-ease, where we lose ease and where that takes us. That's one side of the equation. And then the other side I call the hierarchy of intimacy, how we build ourselves into a state of intimacy, self and others. We're making things better. And there's the drive to actually be with people because we're better off with people than without people. The cycle of dis-ease leads us into the state of loneliness where we isolate, and we're with ourselves, which is a bad idea. And you know what that feels like. Something doesn't go very well, and next thing you're, in the bathtub, like eating a gallon of ice cream or something, feeling sorry for yourself and, feel like the world's against you, versus being out in the world and talking about things that matter to you and finding and creating connections with people that you care about. And so in my teaching approach, I look to unpack both of those experiences. And through this workshop, that's the idea. Today we'll focus on more of the, what leads you into trouble. What leads you into states of, you could say, anxiety and depression. You could say that. And this will make much more sense to you as we move ourselves along. On Wednesday, when we get back together, and hopefully we do that, we'll spend more time on the hierarchy of intimacy and how to build yourself and strengthen yourself in the ways in which you want more of yourself to be, to be able to reveal yourself in new ways. So that's my teaching approach. It's confrontational in various different ways. I'm going to ask you to do weird things today, and it's like, great. And the idea is to jump into those things, those activities, and what I'm asking of you, because I already know the benefit of them. If you do some of these activities and move into these conversations, there's a lot of great benefit attached to it. And I've grappled with myself in a whole host of different ways. And one of the ways it's manifested, me grappling with myself and being able to integrate into myself in various different ways, is this peace retreat. This is like the manifestation of doing something good in the world. And it has not been easy, I can assure you of that. It's been a 12 years here, but even well before that. And getting myself to a state and having a place like this where I can hold it, maintain it, has not been simple. It would have been easy for this place to crush me, and it almost did many times over. The responsibility and holding out for what I believed in, and how many times I had to transform for that to occur, and how many times I actually did get crushed and had to pick myself back up and then reinvent myself to maintain my commitment to being here. And it would have been easy for me to give up, let my own nonsense get in the way, my own resentment and anger and just, fuck it and leave kind of experience. And so I've used my time here over the last 12 years in the jungle to really map out my experience. And it's been fascinating. And in that, I've been teaching it. And how that's played out is other people are relating to it. And it's like, wow, this is really fascinating. And so my teaching approach is there's an element of self-preservation in this. Like trying to keep myself sane and put together and not do it on my own. Yes, at times, but then make sure that I keep coming out. And so I'm with people. And it's been intriguing. If I chose to stay the same through my time here, it wouldn't have worked. It just wouldn't have worked. So every time I got clobbered or crushed and these kinds of things, it's like, okay, that version of myself no longer works. Clearly, I'm on my knees. And so to be able to pick myself back up, and it's like, okay, what else do I need to learn so I can keep on with this thing? And that's true in your own life. You have big commitments in your life. That's true, whatever those are. Think about family and career and, how to take care of yourself and all these large commitments you have in your life. And they're not easy to hold. And so then the idea is to start to understand in a sophisticated manner what undermines your big commitments in this world. Which is very helpful, because then you know what you're up against. Sometimes we don't know what we're up against, and that's why change is so damn difficult, because we don't actually know what we're up against. And it's you, but what specifically about you gets in your way? Anger is an element of that. I used anger this morning to move you deeper into yourself so you could access more of the emotions of fear and shame. These emotions, fear and shame, support anger. Maybe you notice that in your practice. And you start confronting fear and shame in your life. What manifests out of that is healing. I said that at the end of the practice. And maybe you experience that on your mat doing these things, like this flood of experiences come to you. From the past, it's like, whoa, this person, that person, I'm going to punch this person here and punch that person there, and this feeling and that experience. It's wild. But it also shows how much you're holding on to when these things come to visit you and the need to move them along. And so that's what I wish to speak about in this workshop is fear and shame, and unpack fear and shame in some way, in some manner. And what strategies support fear and shame? And there's two in particular. And so I'll get into those very soon. So, just as a recap, I'm curious. You said it out this morning, which one you related to the most, fear or shame. Remember what you said? Which emotion do you relate to the most, fear or shame? Who said what? Shame? Fear? Shame, fear? Yeah, okay, good, hands up. It's good to recognize. Which one is more prevalent in your life? Because it makes a difference on how you behave in this world. So there's like these thoughts that we have, beliefs that evoke emotions. And then we start behaving on our emotions. And that can lead us into making things better or making things worse. And fear and shame, if we lead with them, those two particular emotions, they often make things worse. Not all the time, but if they're disintegrated, we can make things worse. And it's incredible how easy we can make things worse. Isn't it quite something? Yeah, it's like unbelievable. And that's the tendency right off the hop. The automatic experience is to make things worse. It's like, I'm under threat, this is not going well, something's going to happen to me that I don't want to happen, and so best I do something about this. Defend, protect, control, manipulate, whatever we need to do. And so those are the troublemaking tendencies that we have. And ultimately, fear and shame reinforce each other. And they create stress. That's one of the issues. And you think about dis-ease, it's stress-provoked. We get stressed, and in the stress, we stop making good decisions for ourselves. You ever notice that? It's like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I don't have time. It's like, I'm going to skip a meal, or I'm just going to go through the drive-thru, or I don't know, suck down a bag of licorice, or I don't know, whatever your thing is. Drink. What is it? Drink, sure.
Instead of workout.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, I'm going to have a glass of wine instead of going to my yoga class. Or I'm not going to go walk, I'm going to go sleep. It's like, the things in which we do, which reinforce this stressed out experience. We often abandon the things we know are good for us first. It's like, nope. And we start making poor decisions for ourselves, which deepens the stress and ultimately weakens us. We become weak as a consequence of our poor decision making. And that's a problem because it's difficult to get out of it. Especially with the conversations we're having with ourselves during those times. People are against us, we kind of get like paranoid at times. You made that stupid decision, this stupid decision, why'd you eat that? Now you're this and now you're that. And we can rip ourselves apart from the inside out is the tendency. And so this cycle that I'm about to speak to has a profound effect on our experience. And it's one of the ways in which we weaken ourselves over a span of time, and it doesn't take that much time. And it ultimately guts and hollows out our relationships, to self and to others. And it is, these two strategies I'm going to speak to are very common. I'd say so common, people don't know themselves outside of these two strategies. And these two strategies are people-pleasing and perfectionism. In my experience working with people, many people have no idea who they are outside of these strategies. They're either this or they're that. Okay, I'm a people-pleaser at home and I'm a perfectionist at work. I'm a perfectionist with my dad and then I'm a people-pleaser with my mom. I'm this and I'm that. And in this sweep back and forth, what ends up happening is there's a loss of self. That's the problem. We lose ourselves. And it's very easy to lose ourselves. We're in the sway, the wobble, whatever you want to call it. I have to be this with this person, then I have to be this with that person. And we sacrifice a lot. We sacrifice a tremendous amount, which is taking care of ourselves, which you mentioned earlier. It's like I give up the things I know that are good for me to take care of some other thing or person. And in that weakened state, we have a tendency of falling apart. We collapse. And then at some point, ideally, not all the time, we try to put ourselves back together. But in that collapse, putting ourselves back together, it takes a tremendous amount of energy. And sometimes we don't have the energy to do such a thing. And then we can move into the state of hopelessness. That life is too difficult. It's too much. And so I'm not. I'm not going to. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to give up my responsibilities. And let other people do stuff for me, whoever that is. My friends, my family, the government, I don't know, whatever, right? It's like, I'm just going to abandon all my responsibilities because it's too tough. Life is too difficult. And in that chain of events, it's very devaluing. We have a way of devaluing ourselves in that state. And it's like despair and hopelessness. And some people don't get out of that. And so down in the deeper depths of this experience is addiction and suicide. And that's what I've been unpacking for years, and what I call the cycle of dis-ease. And you may think to yourself, well, that's not me. I wouldn't go there. I don't go down into those depths of myself, of hopelessness and despair and these kinds of things. Like, yeah, you do. You've already been there. And the chance of you going there again is really quite likely. And so the idea is to understand how you get yourself there, and if you do, then you'll have a map to get yourself out of it. And that's the idea. And from my experience, it's like we're only a few choices away from going places we don't want to be. One catastrophe after another. It's like, okay, I just made that worse, and then I just made this worse, and I just made this worse, and then that worse, and now my life is an absolute mess. And I don't know how to put it back together. And I won't share it because I'm ashamed or fearful that somebody will criticize me or make fun of me, or I don't know, whatever. So I'm going to hold on to this and not share myself and try and figure it out myself, which is a terrible idea. And so these two strategies up on the board, people-pleasing and perfectionism, is an outline of how we get ourselves into trouble. And so the people-pleaser, oh my goodness, the people-pleaser. The people-pleaser is relationship-oriented, have a lot of focus on people. The people-pleaser. If there's no people, how am I supposed to please? This is outrageous. So I have to collect people around me so I can please them. And people-pleasers are amazing that way. Collecting people. Collecting people. Come to me, people. And here I am to please you. People-pleasers are motivated by fear. And you say, why? Why fear? It's a fear-based experience because the presupposition that supports it is something like, I'm unlovable. Something like that. I'm not liked. Something like that. And that has a fear, a belief that people don't like me, people don't love me. And so, that's not good. That's fear. If people don't like me, then what's going to happen? And that's a terrifying experience. Then I'm going to be on my own, alone. I don't like that. And so it's a fear-based experience, and there's a need to be well-liked. You could even say loved. Just like me and love me. I'm a nice person, and I'm worth keeping around. So do that. And if you do, I'll make your life easier. I'll fold your sheets and bake you muffins and, I don't know, pet you and tell you nice things about who you are. Whatever. And so that's the need. The focus is to alleviate conflict and avoid rejection. People pleasers can't stand conflict. It's like conflict, how do I smother this conflict as quickly as possible and get everything back to normal? Because people pleasers have a tendency of making everything about them, especially when it comes to conflict. Conflict, this person doesn't like me, I have to fix this as quickly as possible so they like me again. And so it's this self-centered approach. Conflict, I move into it so I can repair it. And then there's no conflict. And everybody likes me. And that's a good thing. I like it when people like me. And so conflict means rejection. That's the tendency. There's a conflict, this person's going to reject me, I can't stand that, so I need to fix it. The desire is to feel needed and validated. And that is very curious. And so it's like this self-centered approach. If I do this for you, you validate me. That's the deal. I do nice things for you, and you validate me. Tell me that I'm a good person. This is my role, that's your role. Deal? Okay, good. Everything's good. And in that need to be validated, there's a level of like praise that comes, and praise equals love. If somebody's telling me nice things, that must mean they love me. And yay, that's important. See, I am lovable. I'm no longer not lovable. And if people are praising me, they love me, which means that I'm safe. People love me, and that means that I'm safe, and yay for me. The strategy is to be nice and accommodating and control. It's a weird thing to think about. I'm going to be nice so I can control you. That's the underhanded element to people pleasing. I'm going to accommodate and do all these nice things for you, so you stay the same. And just continue to validate me, praise me, whatever it is, and then in this, I get to feel what I want to feel. And that's good for me. And I'll continue to convince you that I'm good for you. Thank you very much. Because I'm a good person. And I have all this proof. Look at all the things that I do for you. And people pleasers have a way of keeping that in their back pocket. Just in case conflict arises. How could you be mad at me? Look at all these things that I do for you. You're way better off to have me in your life than not. And so it gets into this proving experience that I'll prove to you that I'm lovable by the things in which I do and the long list that I keep track of, just in case of a rainy day I get to pull it out. And how much I sacrifice to take care of you, and shower you with my love and gifts and, I don't know, whatever you do. The tendency that this leads into a conflict, as I mentioned, it's like if we please in an extreme fashion, people feel smothered, and inadequate in some ways. It's like, why are you always around doing stuff? I just want some peace and quiet without you bothering me with all your stuff. And that conflict leads into resentment and repression. Resent and repress as a people pleaser. Oof. You want to see the dark side of a people pleaser? It is called resentment, and hot damn, that is the dragon that comes out. And there's often a long list of why you are a terrible person, and so you should probably just shut up. These are all the reasons why you're a terrible person. And I've been repressing this for 2.5 weeks, 18 months. I've been collecting all these things along the way of why you're a terrible person. And once the resentment comes out, it's all about dominating, controlling the situation. The pleasing stopped working, there is a conflict, and now I'll use resentment and the attempt to repress somebody, to dominate the situation so the conflict goes away. So if the pleasing doesn't work, there's another phase of this, which is the resentment and the repression. We've built it up as the people pleaser, and then we'll dump it on somebody else to repress them, to suppress them, which never goes well in terms of a relationship. It does not go well. People don't like that. And so the very thing that we don't want to come to fruition, which is conflict, comes to be conflict, which is horrifying. And it's the very place people pleasers don't want to be, on their own, feeling like somebody doesn't like them or love them. And so it's this reinforcing experience that we can lead ourselves into. Pleasing always leads into a breakdown, always. That's the consideration here. The strategy is used to develop value in relationship. That's it. It's like, okay, how do I establish value in my life? Value in my family, my friends, my work, my community. How do I establish value? If I'm valuable, people will keep me around. If I'm around other people, that means I'm safe. I'm not by myself. Because if I'm by myself, I don't do very well. I'll make a bunch of stories about why I'm a terrible person, nobody likes me, and at some point I'll collapse into myself and do terrible things to myself. And so that's the tendency. How do I establish value? And that happens through pleasing. If I'm a good person, cute and cuddly and useful, you'll keep me around. And that's the demeanor of a people pleaser, right? It's like, I don't know, it's like a little lamb or something. A little lamb, cute and cuddly and just pet it kind of experience. And that's a strategy. If I'm cute and cuddly, nobody can be mad at me. And that's good. People pleasers are often seen as weak and needy. That's the tendency. Especially when things collapse and fall away. That's what people will see. A people pleaser is weak and needy. They can't make a decision for themselves. They're dependent. Clingy, clingy, clingy. I don't know what to do, you tell me what to do. And that's where people pleasers morph and shape themselves into various different forms and can lose themselves in that state. I need to be this for you, you just tell me what to do because I don't know how to take care of myself on my own. Okay, now you tell me what to do because I'm with you, and then maybe that'll work. And so it's a loss of self. And so we're weak and needy in that state. And if you've been there, yes you have, you can understand how this feels. And that's what's important, to understand how it feels. It's a fear-based experience. Feeling alone and the desire to like reach out and collect people. And the desperation and panic that's attached to that is debilitating. And so this is what how we can lead ourselves into trouble and through this experience. And then you may ask yourself, it's like, okay, how the hell do I get out of this thing? How is that going to be possible? And the integration is autonomy. And we'll get into that over our time together, is being much more autonomous. And so you know how to take care of yourself. You be less accommodating, less nice in various different ways, and stand for yourself, negotiate for yourself, to make sure that you are defining your boundaries, and so you can be a well individual. And stop giving yourself up. Because you know that process, you give yourself up, you become resentful, feel like you're being taken advantage of, and then the anger is right there in a confrontation. You bite. You bite yourself, you bite other people, which never goes well. Then what ends up happening is people start staying away from you. And that's not ideal. We know that. And this, unmanaged over a span of time, becomes a habit. And you'll stop seeing it. People won't. People will feel it, and most importantly, see you coming. And it's like, whoa. I don't know what's going to come from this experience, and so I need to protect myself. Either they're going to smother me or bite me. And so that's how we can start disrupting our relationships. We become unpredictable. And that's not good. Think about those extremes. I'm going to smother you or bite you. It's like, yee, that's a hell of a decision to make. And so this is one way that we reinforce fear, by being the people pleasers. Fear-based experience that ultimately reinforces fear. The other board, perfectionists. Well, let me ask you this. How did you relate to that conversation? Can you see yourself as the pleaser? Any pleasers in the house? You want to raise your hand if you feel yourself as a pleaser? Okay, good. Yeah. So you can relate. Okay. And you could say we're all this. You know, we are the pleaser, we are the perfectionist. One's more predominant, and that's what we're trying to unpack and unfold here, so you get a good sense of the track that you typically run. So as a perfectionist, it's a shame-based experience, which is task-oriented. So task-oriented is like, great, I can complete something, I can perfect something, whatever that may be. Doing the dishes, as I was mentioning, like a spreadsheet, I don't know, some task, mowing the lawn just perfectly, you know, the perfect recipe, the perfect presentation, I don't know, whatever it is. And so it's a task-oriented experience, and there's a lot of focus on task because it's on our terms. And so we can perfect it how we want to perfect it, based on our view. It's kind of great that way. And spent some time around a perfectionist. They are harsh, and judgmental. And then they use shame as a way to motivate themselves. with brutality. Why are you so stupid? Get your shit together. Why'd you miss this? And yeah, somebody got that. And, you know, just like work ourselves into this frenzy. And the conversation is brutal. And it's like that energy is used to motivate into another task. Redoing something, doing something better. But it's harsh and judgmental and a lot of prickles. Very prickly. The need for a perfectionist to be seen as competent. That's the benefit of being the perfectionist. See how brilliant that is? I'm super competent. The opposite of competent is incompetent. Perfectionists don't want to be seen as that. And it's a presupposition they have, a belief that they're not enough or they're incompetent in some ways. And so don't see me as that. Let me use this strategy to perfect so you see me as this competent, well put together person that's skilled and valuable. The focus is to minimize criticism, avoid humiliation. If you want to absolutely destroy a perfectionist, humiliate them. They'll collapse right in on themselves. It's horrific. And that's why perfectionists are so sensitive to criticism. If it's perfect, there's no criticism. That's the end game. That this is so perfect you can't possibly criticize it. And if you do, you have no idea what you're talking about. And so there's a lot of focus on perfecting. And it's all designed so there's no criticism and to avoid the experience of humiliation, which is a very depleting experience and difficult to get out of. The desire is to feel useful and encouraged. So recognize me for all the great things that I do, the good things that I do, and how perfect I am in so many different ways. And if I am recognized, then somebody must love me. And if I'm loved, I'm safe. Yay! That's a good thing. I love feeling safe. Who doesn't like feeling safe? And we see people as a threat. That's the tendency. That's why it's so difficult to move in this world, because we can see people as a threat. What is the world full of? People! And so if we get some people around us that, you know, recognize us and love us, then we'll feel safe in this little zone that we can build out. And wherever that is, your family, the yoga studio, I don't know, whatever you do, bowling club, I don't know, what are the things that you do, your passions, I have no idea. And so the idea is to get ourselves into the state of feeling safe, but it's also a false sense of security. That's the risk. And so the strategy is to adopt responsibility to control. And perfectionists love that. Give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. And if I have everything, then I'm in control. I call the shots, and you just follow. I tell you what to do. And this is good. Way better for me. And if you just listen, your life would be better too. And so if you ever spent time with a perfectionist, woo-wee. Whatever, it's like going on a day trip or something. It's like, you know, the itinerary is well planned out, and it's like, yeah, we're going to stop here at 8:16 and have a cup of coffee for 7.5 minutes. Whatever it is. Or you plan a vacation, it's like, wow, that is a hell of an itinerary you just laid out. Thought I was going to relax. It's like, no, we're going to sightsee, and I have it all planned out. So you just follow along. And if you have something to say, just don't say it. And that's good for me too. And so there's a lot of control associated with being the perfectionist. In conflict, the tendency is to resist and reject. The perfectionist will resist other people, and they'll reject them at some point. They'll resist and reject other people, their thoughts, other ideas, these kinds of things. Nope, I've already thought about that. It's stupid. Mine's better. Those kinds of things. And that is well known. Perfectionists lay that out in a whole host of different ways. Sometimes in a straight way, sometimes not so straight. And that's how we can leave other people feeling powerless and devalued, by not giving them the opportunity to take anything on because we're holding everything. And in that, we get to feel like we're being taken advantage of because we're doing everything and people are just benefiting from our greatness. until that wears thin. It's like, why doesn't anybody ever do anything for me? And then the realization is, well, you don't let them. It's kind of strange. They don't have the opportunity to support you. And that's one of the noticings in these strategies. People have no idea how to support you. That's why you feel unsupported. And that is definitely a conflict point. That will spark anger. Absolutely. And so the perfectionist is often seen as rigid. Oh my goodness, rigid. And arrogant. Which is, I know more than you. Yes. Appreciate the participation. Yep. And so you just follow along. I know way more than you. And let me tell you how much I know about these things, because I've thought about them deeply for long periods of time. And so that rigidity has a way of standing in the way, getting in the way. And the perfectionist will break at some point because they're so rigid. That's the collapse. They hold too much, not taking care of themselves through this experience until they'll crumble. That could look like, I don't know, panic attacks as an example. Who knows? You know, the body just can't hold on to it anymore. And it's like, shake it out. Panic attack. I don't know, an absolute collapse of the systems. Who knows? Having digestive issues. I don't know, you name it. Adrenal fatigue. All the things in which we can manifest as a consequence of these strategies. The integration for a perfectionist, which is a horrifying concept, is intimacy. Because that means being close to people. And perfectionists don't really have a lot of attention on relationships. It's like, you're kind of a bother, and you're in my way. And so perfectionists abandon relationships to be so focused on tasks. People pleasers abandon tasks to be with people. It's very strange, but amazing nonetheless. And what you'll notice, and perhaps you can notice this in your own life, is that if you relate to being a people pleaser, more often than not, you'll be attracted to a perfectionist. And if you're a perfectionist, you'll be attracted to a pleaser. That's what I've noticed, not all the time, but I've noticed that a lot. It's like, wow, that's fascinating. And we're looking for that for a reason. It's, if you are what I'm not, that's good. You get to fill in a bunch of gaps, and I get to stay the same. Yay. And so these strategies are designed to keep you as you are, while attempting to force everybody else to change. You ever tried to force somebody to change? Did it go well? Probably not. Just like you don't like being told what to do. Oh, isn't that right, Terry? Yes. But yet somehow we can feel we can tell other people what to do through these strategies. And people don't like that too much. And so these strategies have a way of revealing themselves. And it's not just like every once in a while, it's like every day, all of the time. They're very prevalent. And my hope is that you can really see yourself in these strategies, and then you can really dissect. It's like, I'm going to apply this to my life. Where am I the perfectionist? Where am I the pleaser? With whom do I play these out? And what are the outcomes? What are the outcomes I'm actually manifesting in my life? And what you'll notice is that there's tension spots. These always lead to tension because they're conflicted. They're already bent from a bent presupposition, a belief about yourself, that you're not competent or lovable or something like that. You have to prove or perform in a way that you're not that, which is a lot of attention. Don't see me as this, see me as that. So see me as this, see me as this. But what ends up happening is we're constantly seen as how we don't want to be seen. As incompetent, unlovable, these kinds of things, because we're too busy devaluing and smothering people along the way. And so just out of curiosity, who relates to being a perfectionist? Raise a hand. Okay, very nice. So you can see yourself up on the board?
There's a dance of
Yes. Well said. And it is a dance of both, absolutely. And sometimes it's difficult to create the definition. But we are both, for sure. One is more prevalent. You rely and leverage one more than the other because it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, you'll abandon that one and move into the next one. And that's how we establish value. When you think about the perfectionist, if I'm so good at doing things, I'll make your life easier, I'm valuable to you, and you'll keep me around. And that's good for me. And so these are very self-centered approaches, all masked and cloaked in, I'm a good person. And there's nothing good about these strategies because they're manipulative. We're looking to get something from people. If I do these things for you, like, I don't know, set up your computer and perfect these things for you, then you just tell me that I'm a good person. And the next time you ask, I'll come and do something for you. If you don't, I won't. And so best you treat me this way because that's what I need from you. And it's often not said that way. In a straight fashion. We're sneaky. Ooh, we're sneaky. And so these strategies, these two, people-pleasing and perfectionists, can ravage us and lead us places we don't want to go. And so if you can see yourself here in these strategies, you can also see how you move yourself into places you don't want to be, and then ideally you can see how to move yourself out of places you don't want to be. Integration, the people pleaser, autonomy, self-sufficient. Stop relying on people as much as you have been. Get a voice, stand for yourself. Teach yourself how to negotiate. The perfectionist is so much about intimacy, giving people the opportunity to participate, encourage them, take on less responsibility, give out more, these kinds of things. Encourage, support, nurture, guide, teach, these kinds of things. The things we don't necessarily want to do, and especially where we're conflicted. In the conflict points. And so if you can see where you're conflicted in your life, what you'll notice is one of these strategies is supporting it. And now you also have the way to get out, how to solve the problem. You need to say something or do something. And that's good for you to know. Otherwise, you're just going to stay an embittered, angry individual that will not work out well for you. If you scale that out over the next 15, 20 years and envision yourself in the future being embittered and resentful, what does that look like? And that is a horrifying picture I could imagine. Not one you want to dance with. And so this is an integrative experience. It's like, okay, yes, I can see myself here. I can see how it's creating conflict in my life. And now, excuse me, I have an opportunity to solve this problem. And what a good thing. And if I use responsible practices to move the anger and the fear and shame around this thing, perhaps I can be responsible with this individual to solve the problem I have. So I'm going to kriya, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to do these things to keep moving myself, clearing myself out, so I have a chance. A chance to make things better. And so that's the idea. Does this add up? Make sense? Yes. Okay. What's also worth noting is, before we move along, is that there's behaviors associated with these two strategies, behaviors. And that's something also worth paying attention. You know, like what are the behaviors associated with these experiences that you manifest? And the benefit of understanding your behaviors is you can ideally see and feel yourself in the future when these behaviors grip you. Because they're so automatic. They just kind of take us over. And we start playing these things out. And so that is what's next. We're going to move into experience. We're going to move into an experience where you get to play these things out. Oh, fun. So you get to be the people pleaser and you get to be the perfectionist. That's what's coming to you next. And you could say this is a role-playing experience, and that's a good thing. In an exaggerated way to pump these things out of you so they're conscious and they're out in front of you, and you can start to see the absurdity of them. Because sometimes these are so unconscious we don't see how these things play out in real time, real life. And so you'll get a sense of what it's like to play these things out. You'll also get a sense of what it's like to be in the presence of these experiences. So that's what's next, people. Okay. So you need a partner. You need one partner. And once you have your partner, you get to stand up with your friend. Friend with the darkest colored eyes. Means you have to see each other. Darkest colored eyes. Get out of town. Is this true? Oh my goodness. I don't know. Then go eyebrows. Okay. Okay. Now, friend with the darkest colored eyes, you're going to go first. The idea is to, come on. The idea is to exaggerate your people-pleasing skills. And so whatever that looks like, the idea is to smother this poor individual, okay? And to create this inadequate experience, like they can't fend for themselves. They're the baby bunny, these kinds of things. And so I don't know what you say. It's like, what do you need? Oh, you look like you need a hug. Let me hug you. Come on. I'll just hug you for a while. It's good for me. It's good for you. What else do you need? Whatever. And so you're just moving in on this poor, unsuspecting individual in an exaggerated way. And at some point I'll say stop. So you just keep going and going and going, pleasing this poor individual. Person that's being pleased, the idea is to feel what it's like to be in this experience. You'll have an automatic response most likely. And I don't know what you'll do. You'll be like, or you're just like, whatever. Okay, darkest colored-eyed friend, you get to go first. Ready, set, please. Like you've never pleased before. Go ahead, share. Okay, and pause, everybody. Pause. Wow. All right. Yes, very good. Okay, everybody. Yes. Yeah. Fighting back the dry heaves, all those things. Yeah. Ooh, ooh. Okay. For those who are pleasing, what was your experience pleasing? Was it familiar? Was it like weird?
It was not at all weird.
Not at all weird. Okay.
It was a little
Over the top, yeah.
I added a whole lot of sprinkles.
Okay, good. Very nice.
You don't know the person.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very good. For those that were being pleased, what was your experience? Smothering? Yeah. Okay, good. Good to recognize. All right. So we're going to switch now. The listener, you are now the pleaser. Ready, set, exaggerate this over the top. Give it to them, smother them. Go ahead, please. All right, pause, everybody. Pause. All right. Oh, my goodness. A lot happening in this space. A lot happening. Okay. Yeah. I like that. Let me help you please me. It's amazing. For those who are being pleased, what was your experience? Awkward. That's enough. That's enough. Too much.
I think she didn't really want to please me.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good. Well done. Amazing. Now, darkest colored-eyed friend, you will be the perfectionist. Perfectionists typically are rigid, harsh, judgmental, prickly, these kinds of things, telling somebody else what to do. It's like, what are you doing? You should be doing something totally different. I don't like this outfit. You should change it immediately. And so it's like this critique. I love your outfit, by the way. Yeah. You know, and it's like ordering them around. You're not doing this right. You can't stand like this. Put yourself together. What the hell's wrong with you? These kinds of things. Okay, so perfectionist over the top. Ready, set, go. Okay, pause, everybody. Oh, yes, indeed. All right. For those that were perfecting, what was your experience? Awkward, hard. It's kind of natural, okay? Busted. Yeah. For those that were being perfected, what was your experience? Right, yeah, being judged. Okay, good. Okay, now you get to switch it up. Ready, set, perfect. Other partner, you get to go. Go. Okay, so high five or give your friend some knuckles. Well done. We're going to bring ourselves back up here. It's very difficult to confront problems, but it's also amazing to confront problems because it gives us something to focus on. And if we solve the problem, what's nestled into that problem-solving endeavor is the very thing that we want. Whatever you want more of is nestled right into you solving the problems you have in your world, in your life. And so that's the look. It's a meaningful experience to take it on, to take yourself on, and whatever that is, and to do it with great enthusiasm. And if you need to draw on anger, fear, shame, these kinds of things to motivate yourself, that's worthwhile, but to do it in a responsible way. And so maybe you come to your mat, you do some kriyas and rattle yourself up. It's like, okay, good. Now I'm energized. I'm clear. I know what I have to do and I'm going to move into it. And so that's a good use of the energy associated with these emotions. Otherwise, they'll just paralyze us. We procrastinate. A year goes by, 5 years go by, a lifetime goes by. And that happens a lot, more than you could even imagine. Some of these problems that can exist can be around for a long time, decades. And it's easy to rationalize them off. It's like, yeah, it's no big deal, these kinds of things. But they're constraining you. And it's detrimental because it is, and you can feel this if you move into it. That's why we don't like feeling. We numb ourselves out by being busy, so we don't feel. And so we start getting into the feeling of these experiences like, whoa, there's some weight here. There's some gravity here. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And so if I don't want to feel like this anymore, best I make some changes. And so the idea through this workshop, our time together, is you recognize what's leading you into trouble. And if you can see that, you can also lead yourself out of trouble. And so if you are the perfectionist, it's all about intimacy. Getting closer to what matters to you and making sure that you're communicating it in a way that other people can hear it. And there's greater understanding and common ground and unity and collaboration. And solve the problem through with other people. For the people pleaser, it's about autonomy. Being less reliant on other people. Getting a good understanding of what you need and giving it to yourself and stop depriving yourself of it. And these strategies are the ways in which we deprive ourselves. This is the recipe for deprivation. And we can only last for so long when we're deprived, and we know that. So I wanted to lay that out for you today, and I appreciate you being here with such enthusiasm and listening and participation. It's a lot to hear, I get that. And wouldn't it be amazing that you use your time here, and I'm not saying you weren't, maybe you have been, to use this time here, your time here, to gather yourself in a way that you go home and solve a problem. Wouldn't that be incredible? The opposite of that is coming to a retreat, forgetting about your life, and going back into the life you just left. That's what's waiting for you. And that would be easy till the next time you retreat, and then, you know, it's like I forget my life for a week, and then, oh, here's my life again. And so to use this time here wisely, to put yourself together in a way that you can solve a problem at home, that you know you need to solve. And only you can do that. That's what's so brilliant about this. So there'll be more to come. More ways to discuss this and ideally give you some pathways on how to solve these problems you have at home. And we'll talk more about that on Wednesday. More time together if you're interested. So keep talking. What a wonderful group to be with. Amazing people, that's for sure. I'm blessed that you're here. And so thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the benefits, I'll leave this with you, one of the benefits of understanding yourself and seeing yourself in these strategies is that you can start to see other people in their strategies. And then you can start really working with people. Start really working with people and not oppose them. You know, it's like, okay, this is who I'm working with. This is my audience. And I know what they're already looking for. And so can I work this in so we have this understanding that I'm not a threat? And you could say, I mean, there's a lot wrapped up in this. I mean, you could say love languages and all sorts of different things and how to really be with people. So you get a sense of what they're looking for. And it's like, give it to them sometimes. Wouldn't that be amazing? And open them up And in that is the connection we're looking for. And so the more you start to understand yourself, you'll start to understand other people, and that's a brilliant thing. So.
Will you leave this board up for a little bit?
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, please.
Yep. Absolutely. It's good stuff. Yep. It's fascinating, these 2 tracks of fear and shame. And it leads into, as I mentioned, the cycle of disease, which is much more robust, much more robust. And that's ultimately what I teach, you know, through programming and these kinds of things, is the cycle of disease and how to put that together so you have a real good sense of yourself and what you're up against. It's fascinating. Absolutely. Okay, you all. Different kind of retreat now. You'll be sussing each other out. It's like, yeah, I know you now. All right, enjoy your day. See you around.